Okay, yeah, your pension plan, there's really nothing you can do. The only thing you can do is buy gold and silver to hedge against your pension plan collapsing.
Yeah, because, I can invest in different mutual funds or whatever I need to, but no matter what, it's still dollars, And
are you saying...
Even if I sell all that stuff, I'm still left with dollars.
So, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. So are you saying you have somewhat of a control over what your investments are in your pension plan?
Oh, sure I can. I can get in there and I can change where that money is invested. And I've invested in precious metals and commodities, and it's done pretty well. But I think when ultimately the correction occurs, that'll be worth less if I don't get out on time. And even if I do get out on time and that's done well, I will still only have dollars.
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, when you own a stock, it is backed by a company. So let's say you own a stock in Asia. It's still backed by that electric company in Asia, or that gas company in Asia, whatever it is. And same thing with commodities. If you're buying a commodity fund, that let's say you own an oil company, at least that oil company does own land that has oil under it. So, though I wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket as far as your pension plan goes, but it's still better than nothing. It's certainly still better than being in the Dow Jones or just simply a money market. At least with a stock, you do own a business that does own something physical.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
No problem. Thanks for watching my videos.
Very much, Bud.
Bye-bye.
Daniel, last year there was so much talk about the other pass of stimulus bill because we've got to salvage these banks. They're too big to fail. That was the thinking last year. Now, you got the state of California in such a bind. Aren't they going to use that same excuse to bail out the state of California? It's too big to fail.
It's interesting because politicians, when they were helping banks, it was in all their best interests. But just like little children, it's hard to bail out one state when 43 other states need bailouts. So if you bail out one, everybody's going to want to bail out. So as of right now, the federal government's not going to bail out California. Let's see what happens when California says they're going to have to file bankruptcy next year. That's a prediction from me. I believe California will have to file bankruptcy next year or get bailed out. It's going to be one or the other. California has not, when they look at their tax revenues, they're looking at historical averages. They have not accounted for the significant drop they're going to see in tax revenues, not only from consumers spending less, but from baby boomers spending less and people leaving California. They also haven't accounted for all the job losses and the increase in entitlement spending, especially unemployment benefits. So I don't think they've done a very good job of accounting for the future, and I think the budget deficit was around $26 billion when they finally got the budget resolved by borrowing money to fill the hole. And now they have all these loans, and their expectation is that we're going to be in some great recovery. But the fact is, California is not going to see recovery. They're going to see it's going to get worse. So I think by the next year's budget battle, California bankruptcy is going to be a viable option that's going to be talked about publicly.
Oh my God! And it's happening in our time. I think we've got a return call here. Are you willing to take it?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Carl.
Of course.
Caller, go ahead. I guess the caller's not there anymore, huh?
Okay.
All right. So getting back to California, if they did it for California, Michigan would be in the queue, and also Pennsylvania, New York, obviously. So where would they get all that money? This is ridiculous on its face.
There's no way to get it. The government right now, we've spent in the last year roughly $4.7 trillion. Out of the $4.7 trillion, we had revenues of $2.6 to pay for that, and then we had to borrow $2.1 trillion. So there is simply no money. And in fact, we're already almost basically spending, for every dollar we take in, we're spending $2. So the only way is to basically create the money out of thin air, or to borrow it from China, and I don't think China is in the mood to loan us too much money anymore. And in fact, they've become a net seller over the last 3 months. So, I don't know what the federal government will do. If they let California go bankrupt, that would probably set the country into a tailspin, though. The amount of jobs that would be lost in California would be pretty significant. So I don't know what they're going to do, but I know that they're going to have to do something. It's either going to be let it go bankrupt or print more money. Now, we do know over the last 2 years, their option has always been to print more money. So let's say they decide to print more money. It's just only going to add to inflation as they increase the money supply, and it's just going to make the situation even worse.
Well, we do know of the danger of inflation, and especially hyperinflation. How about deflation?
I think that the danger for deflation is intact as long as there's stability in global markets. So as long as you can go to the grocery store and buy your food, and as long as you can go to the gas station and get gasoline, and basically as long as things are pretty much normal, I think the deflation story is intact. But once things get a little chaotic, once more banks start to fail and there's a currency crisis, I think deflation's off the table, with the exception for basically things that are not needed. There could be massive deflation in automobiles because people won't need them. But when it comes to food and energy, you're going to see significant inflation, significant price increases. And what I'm actually thinking we're going to see is something worse than inflation, and that's a currency collapse. That's basically an extinction of the U.S. dollar. And when that happens, you're not only going to see chaos, but you're going to see radical price increases for everything. And you won't even be able to price it in dollars. People might be posting signs. In fact, we've already seen some stores in New York selling stuff in euros. So they might try to sell them in other currencies. They might try to sell them in silver or gold. They might even try to sell them in copper or some other kind of metal. But it won't be dollars, and that's when you have a severe crisis. That's the crisis we're going into. So,
there's a suggestion made recently that the U.S. adopt the euro as their currency. How do you feel about that?
I hadn't heard that, but I think that's a horrible idea, because the euro is nothing more than just another dollar. It's just a newer dollar. It's a bastard currency. I think it's 17 nations, not even backed by one nation. It's backed by 17. I think Europe would be stupid to absorb the U.S. debt and the U.S. dollar as a currency. So I think it'd be a bad move for Europe, and I really don't see it happening. But just real quick, I often talk about the stock market and stuff on my channel, and I hope everybody knows that the stock market is almost a sideshow, because once the main event starts, it's not going to matter what the Dow Jones is at. It's not going to matter if the Dow Jones is 150,000 or 150, because once the main event starts, you're talking about the government itself, the United States itself, being threatened as a nation. And once the currency goes, I don't know how it's gonna play out. But it's beyond any of us to start predicting post-collapse scenarios. But I do know once the currency goes, the United States itself will never again be what it was. We will never. Life as you know it is about to end, and it's going to change forever.
Oh boy. Well, a reason why the terrorists selected the towers for their terrorism act, don't you? It's because of its location.
As far as, what do you mean by as far as location? Just being the economic hub of the world, New York?
No, because the World Towers were there at the Wall Street.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
They were hoping to bring down because they know that the power that the U.S. has had is because of the currency. It's solid currency.
Yeah.
And if they could affect that, they would know that they would knock out the United States without, they did fire a shot. They fired, the explosions and everything. But they picked that because it was a Wall Street location.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't be surprised, and it certainly shook the economic world. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more economic 9/11s. Not necessarily buildings going down, but larger banks going down, and like you said, an economic 9/11 would be California going bankrupt. So more stuff like that's coming, and I think people should realize that this country's not going to be taken down by missiles. It's going to be taken down by people selling our bonds across the world. So we're very, very vulnerable when it comes to what we've done to ourselves. Basically, by going into debt, we have become the slave to the world, and they're basically in control of us. China could collapse the U.S. economy any day they want. We live and breathe and go to the store because China has decided not to collapse our economy.
Isn't that remarkable? A communist country, we're in their behest. Boy, I'll tell you, a lot of things have changed in my lifetime, Daniel. I can't believe all these things that are happening. I never thought I'd see this happening, but we only have a short time left. Wait a minute, can we take one more call before we go off the air?
Sure.
Okay, caller, go ahead.
Hello, Daniel. This is Steve. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing well. I wanted to mention a couple of things. One is I understand that this some reading that I did that the most represented state at the march to Washington on 9/12 was Georgia. And the reason I'm saying that is I'd like to see you put Atlanta on your radar screen for your seminar, your talks.
Yeah, well,
We haven't done that yet, and we certainly would like to see you over here. Texas is a long way from us.
well, that's a good stat, actually, because that is what I'm going off of, where my viewers are. And YouTube, actually, YouTube shows me where most of the viewers are, and Georgia actually is on the list because it is one of the areas. Georgia, New Jersey, Texas, Colorado, and California seem to be the big states that are following me.
The other thing I wanted to ask, you almost talked about how to invest IRAs and 401k, and I'm curious what your thoughts are there.
Well, I mean, I'm not an investment advisor, so I recommend people talk to Euro Pacific Capital if they want stocks. I tell them to check out CSL Financial Group if they want mutual funds. But as far as your IRAs you have control over. So you can do whatever you want with those. You can put them in foreign equities. You can, there's actually a Harry Dent fund. I think he just started an ETF. So there's some guys that are like-minded that see this stuff coming, that have some investment plans. As far as your 401k, you're usually locked into something. So I recommend people either borrow half that 401k and put it all into gold, because you're essentially borrowing money from yourself, but you get your gold or silver to hedge against that rest of that 401k going to trash. Or throw it all into your foreign equities. And of course, I'm not going to lie, you're going to see a major hit because I think foreign equities are going to get hit. But at least it's not in U.S. dollars. So is there a global currency crisis coming? Yes, possibly. But no one is going to get hit as hard as the dollar.
And I had actually moved mine. I have control of my 401k because I'm no longer working for that employer, and I did move those funds to Europac, and they have done quite well, as
Good.
a matter of fact. In overseas investments, my concern, of course, is that, as you said, they may come down with the rest of the equities, and even in that case, when it's converted back, we're still dealing with U.S. dollars, which will be under attack.
Yeah, anything electronically that I have, I've moved half of those investments into international bonds, and I have half of them in stocks as well. But, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt global markets are going to take a huge hit over the next 6 months.
I had considered actually cashing out, paying the penalties and taxes, and using that to maybe buy physical gold or silver.
Well, I mean, do you have a lot of physical gold and silver already?
Well, I do.
Let me tell you this.
You can only have so much,
Yeah, I'll just tell you my net worth. My net worth is 50% in precious metals. So it's whatever you're comfortable with. Financial advisors typically recommend whatever 5 to 10%. I've heard, Peter Schiff and stuff recommend up to 30%. I know one guy who's 100% in gold. His entire net worth is gold. So, it just depends on what your comfort level is. my belief level is very high because of the macroeconomic situation. So, I'm 50% in the metals, but I'm also an investor, so I do have some diversification. But for smaller investors, I would recommend just buying silver and gold, with the majority of that being silver, probably a 90% silver, 10% gold split.
That's essentially what I've done, only I have total 10% silver of my investment, but it piles up. I mean, you can only bury so much of this silver. It's big.
Yeah.
Gold is not so large. So I'm trying to figure out what to do with the electronic investment. I appreciate your help, though. Thank you.
You have a good one.
Thank you very much, Miller. Hey, Daniel, I want to thank you very much. What an exciting program. This is a tremendous call, very good questions. We only have a couple of seconds left here. Give us your websites to visit, please.
You can check out my YouTube page. Just search Vision Victory on Google or on YouTube, or go to youtube.com/Vision Victory. You can also check out my website, which has hard economic data, visionvictorymanifesto.com.
Okay, who wants to say goodbye to Daniel?
Thank you, Daniel. You're awesome. Thanks.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. You guys have a good week.
Have a nice weekend. Have a nice weekend. Bye, everybody.
Hope to talk to you again soon.